Hey there, it's Christina Johnson here, Transformational Nutrition Coach, and I wanted to give you some tips today on the 5 best things to keep track of when you are keeping a food log or a food diary in order to lose weight. So what I have found is that a lot of people and a lot of diets tell us that when we're wanting to lose weight or eat healthier, that we need to track our calories, the number of points that we're eating, how many grams of carbs or protein or fat. And for a lot of people, I find that that's not very effective because it really gets to feel kind of hard or complicated. I know I've kept food diaries like that in the past, and I just didn't want to stick with it long term because it was a lot of work. It was a lot to track all of that, and so it wasn't a good long-term solution. And so that's actually, last week I did a video on the topic of, do you even need to keep a food log when you're trying to lose weight? And overall, in general, my answer is no. Most of the clients I work with do not actually track all of their food. But with that being said, as I mentioned in my previous video, and if you want to check it out, that was called, Do You Have to Keep a Food Log to Lose Weight? But as I mentioned in that, there are times when it can be beneficial to keep a food log or food diary, whatever you want to call it, for a short amount of time. And so what I wanted to share with you today is, if you find that it is helpful for you to keep a food log for a while, what exactly are the best things to keep track of? And so that's what I'm going to share with you today. So if you think this would be helpful for anybody else you know, please share this video with a friend, family member, share it on Facebook or YouTube. And make sure, before I forget, if you haven't already subscribed to my YouTube channel or my Facebook page, make sure to do that right now, wherever you're watching this video. Okay, so like I said, there are certain situations where it's helpful to keep a food journal. For example, let's say you're eating healthy, going along pretty well, but you've hit like a weight loss plateau. At that point, it might be helpful to keep track of your food for a week or two to see if there's something you could switch up to move past that plateau. Or let's just say you're wanting to lose weight, but you're having a hard time sticking with the changes that you're making. You find that you've kind of maybe let some bad habits slip in, you're stress eating, maybe you're eating out of boredom, emotional eating, just kind of grazing throughout the day. In that case too, it can be helpful to keep track of your food for a couple weeks to figure out what's going on so that you can really fix the issue and stick with eating healthy more consistently. And so when you're keeping a food log, I really do not find it helpful for most people to track your calories, to track points, or even to be really particular about like weighing or measuring your food. It's really not necessary for the most part to write down, I had 1 1/4 cups of broccoli and a tablespoon of butter, or whatever it is. You really just don't need to be that specific. Now, I will say every now and then, like especially if you've hit a plateau, you might want to do that for a week or so where you're, maybe writing down how many grams of carbs you're eating just to get a general idea. But really for most people, I don't think that's the most helpful place to start. So here are the top 5 things that I would recommend that you track if you are just trying to figure out how to eat healthy consistently. So number 1 is just writing down for every time you eat, just a general idea of what you ate. So again, it doesn't need to be how many calories or grams of this or that or points, but just for example, you might had a serving of chicken and a serving of broccoli with some butter on it. Or maybe you had a large salad with chicken on it, cucumbers, tomatoes, carrots, and some homemade dressing. So just kind of writing down in general what you ate every time you eat. That would be number 1. Number 2, write down what time you ate. So a lot of times we don't think about tracking this, but it's really helpful when we start looking for patterns. So just write down the time that you started eating. Number 3, where were you when you were eating? So just think about, were you sitting down at the table eating? Were you standing up in the kitchen? Were you eating in the car? Were you at your desk working? Were you on the couch in front of the TV? And again, it doesn't seem like the first thing you'd be tracking in a food log, but it's really helpful to start to look for patterns, which I'll talk about in just a minute. Number 4 is, what was your mood when you started eating, or what was happening right before you started eating? So for example, maybe right before you started eating, you were feeling really upset because you just had an argument with a friend or a spouse. Maybe you were feeling bored. You were just kind of at home alone, feeling bored, and that's how you were feeling before you ate. Maybe you were working on a project and just kind of feeling some stress. So just in general, what was your mood? Bored, tired, lethargic, frustrated, content, happy, just whatever it was. Write down what you were feeling, or kind of what was happening right before you ate. Like if there was an argument with somebody, if you were watching a movie. Number 5, then, the last thing to track is, were you actually hungry when you started eating? So this is really, I think anytime we eat, we just need to stop. 2 seconds it takes to just stop and actually turn your attention to your stomach and just think about, am I actually feeling hungry right now? And is there that like empty, hungry feeling in your stomach? Is your stomach maybe even growling a little bit? Or are you just thinking you want to eat? So just jot down, like, yes, I was really, really hungry. I'd waited way too long to eat. Maybe you just write down, yeah, I was hungry. Or you write down, I was a little bit hungry. I could have waited, but I just wanted to eat. So just kind of write down, like, where are you at hunger-wise? So those are the 5 things. A quick recap is just a general idea of what you ate, what time you ate, where you were at when you were eating, what was your mood, or kind of what was happening right before you started eating, and then lastly, were you physically hungry before you started eating? So that's what you do, and what I recommend is you keep that type of food journal for about a week. So keep it for 5 to 7 days. Every time you eat, just track those 5 things. It can be in your phone, it can be on a piece of paper, whatever feels easiest to you. And then at the end of that week, set aside just 10 to 15 minutes to review your journal. And what you want to do is look for patterns. Try and figure out, are there certain times when you ate when you weren't actually hungry? What kinds of situations or emotions were triggering you to overeat? It's really interesting that I think we don't always realize how often we eat even though we're not hungry. And so by doing this for even just a week, it will be amazing how much you will learn and discover about your eating habits. So maybe you notice that every time you skip breakfast, you are way hungrier in the afternoon. Maybe you notice that every time you're working on a stressful work project, that you tend to go for a snack just to keep you going. So just start paying attention, review your food journal. What are the patterns? What are the triggers that cause you to eat when you're not actually hungry? And then just jot down some ideas. Again, take 10 to 15 minutes is all to do this, to review your food journal from the week and just jot down some notes. And then decide, would it be helpful to do this again for another week? Because remember, the goal isn't necessarily to have to track your food every day for the rest of your life, but it's to do it when it serves a purpose and when it will help you stay on track with your eating habits. So just decide, do I need to do this another week? Are there things that I can change in order to get my eating under control a little bit more, to reduce my cravings, to help me stick with eating healthy? And so my challenge to you after watching this video is to consider if committing to a food journal for just 1 week might be helpful for you. And if so, all you need to do is decide the time you're going to start and then write down these 5 things every time you eat for 1 week. At the end of the week, take just 10 to 15 minutes to review the food journal and just notice what patterns and triggers and everything that you learned about yourself over the past week. So I'm curious, let me know what you think about this. If you're going to try doing a food journal, hit the like button so I can see how many people are going to be tracking their food in this way. And then please know that if you want more support with just with getting your eating under control, with being more of a clean eater and a mindful eater so that you can lose weight for good and have a really healthy relationship with food, then that is what I help people with every day in my coaching business. So if you're interested, I'd love to offer you a complimentary discovery session. You can go to ChristinaJohnsonWellness.com/apply. Just tell me a little bit about yourself, and then you can schedule a session for us to talk and figure out how to help you really find a good way to lose weight and keep it off for good. So let me know any questions, comments that you have in the comments below, and I will see you again next week. Bye for now.